do you think?
I think it's fantastic.
Okay. Okay, Bruno, you can start. Yeah.
Okay, I will talk about the what I call
vertical and horizontal situation in the context of this global crisis. And globalization led to the global crisis of the
neoliberal capitalist unipolar system.
What we could observe since the 2008 crisis, since the COVID-19 pandemic, and in a much more
tragic form,
the war in Ukraine that began, in fact, in 2014 and provoked the Russian intervention in 2022. Apparently, the Russian-Ukrainian war is a local war, but it is now obvious it is a NATO-Russia war, at least, or a new form of world war of our time between the old colonial imperialist countries around the USA and the emerging anti-hegemonic countries and new powers, and what we could observe during the
G20 summit,
where the contradictions appeared. And this gap now explains why the anti-Russian sanctions did not work and led to the beginning of a world process that can be considered as de-dollarization. This was a great surprise for big powers functioning inside the post-1991 unipolar world. And this new, and for literally conservative forces, a surprising situation that needs to be explained. Who, on one side, who stands behind so different counter-hegemonic countries or powers like
China,
Russia, Iran, India, Cuba, Brazil, Algeria, Venezuela, or Syria, since all those countries and others are ideologically and politically and economically very different. And in spite of that, they share one common thing. The principle they should develop their own political system and build their own economic policies within a completely rebuilt global architecture. In the same time, as we observe in the global south and in Central Eurasia, the development of counter-hegemonic countries tends toward multipolarity and made them refuse to condemn and to cut their cooperation with Russia. And we observe in the same time the whole world, including Western Europe and North America, a social polarization process tending to develop growing doubts and resistance even against globalized and neoliberal capitalism open for borderless capital flows. We can then observe two types of growing contradictions and conflicts. Conflicts between countries of the former periphery of the developed world and countries of the former center of the unipolar system born after 1991. Contradiction, and in the second time, contradiction in each society between social groups tending to cooperate with the existing collective West leadership and social groups more and more opposed to this Western-based conservative social establishment, including social groups in Western hemisphere, in Western Europe and North America. All over the planet, we observe that the basic contradiction lies between those who are interested by development policies here and now, and those nomadic-like social groups promoting uncontrolled circulation of capital and working force. On one side, people interested by the development of local industry, local agriculture, and local services with equalized form of international cooperation, and on the other side, people interested to invest and work for, and control workforce where it is cheaper and gives profits as quick as possible. The basic contradiction are then between those who want to invest locally and build locally stable enterprises, including the ones who want to be hired locally and those who can make profit in one country and or be hired in one country and then use their profit in other places or other countries without any collective responsibility. On one side, local and national layers of the bourgeoisie and local and national workforce, and on the other side, globalized layers of the bourgeoisie, of another bourgeoisie, and well-established servicemen, making advantage of the globalization on unipolar form, working, for example, in transnational corporation, in international organization, and in rich humanitarian or human rights NGOs. And this is the reason why US and Western European leaders were surprised by the behavior, not only China, but much more surprised by the reaction of such countries like India, Brazil, Turkey, or even Saudi Arabia and Indonesia after Russia decided to intervene militarily in Donbass and Ukraine in February 2022. And this explains also why, in spite of unilateral and monolithic hate war propaganda in the collective West, we observe the development of mass misconduct in France, in Britain, in Italy, in Belgium, in Germany, and even in the USA. Because social polarization is not only between West and South, but also within the Western societies now. It is not only the rather form of international traditional class conflict between working class and bourgeoisie. In Europe, and especially, for example, in Germany, we can observe quite similar anti-war attitude within the German DGB trade unions and the German industry owners, both opposed to the anti-Russia, pro-NATO, pro-war trends, supported by what I call nomadic globalists coming from both the right and the left. Then new forms of polarization, including old anti-colonial and old class conflicts, were reorganized within new forms that we can describe as an opposition between nation-based sedentarity and globalized uprooted nomadism. The nation-based sedentarity can be called nationalist, but the concept of right for development fits much more to this trend. And the globalized uprooted nomadism can be described as universalist, but we observe that concepts like imperialism, neo-colonialism, or even neo-racism fit much more clearly to this trend. This all means new forms of national and international alliance must be introduced on both sides of something we can now call again barricades. Since, as we defined it at the beginning of our lecture, the whole world is now taking side within the new, mostly economic now world war, which are considered as national liberation movement and or class emancipatory movement in the same time. Because working people and industrialists are on one side, and global financialists and their servants are on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you.